How are we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we recap the week that was week 6 of season 2 of our Pitt Panthers Dynasty, and things did not go the way we desired. Your number 6 Pitt Panthers went into Clemson, and well, we left with our first loss of the season. We left with a pretty good beating. There's no doubt about that. Clemson just kind of did what they wanted offensively on us, and we didn't play badly, there's no doubt about that, but they just seemed to get the timely play when they needed to, and we just made some mistakes that we didn't need to. We had 3 turnovers, lost a fumble, and 2 interceptions. We still put up 500 yards of offense, but just couldn't punch in when we needed to. And the big thing to see is in the red zone, we were 60% in the red zone, 5 red zone attempts, only 1 touchdown, 2 field goals, whereas Clemson had 4 red zone attempts, scored on all 4 of them, and 3 of those scores were touchdowns. And really where they killed us was that rushing attack. 254 is rushing. That had been the best part of our defense, was our rushing attack. We were getting killed through the air. This was completely the opposite. The air, we were fairly solid, but just on the ground was where we got obliterated. Quadri Olsen, 133 yards for us. Danucci had a 300-yard game passing, but 2 interceptions really hurt us, and we were playing catch-up for the majority of the game. And you can see with the likes of Jordan Whitehead and Quadri Henderson rushing, we tried a lot of jet sweeps to try to get something going, keep Clemson guessing, but they really killed us. And some of our 3 catches each for bottom receivers for us, our 3 receiver, 4 receiver, 5 receiver, actually our 4, 5, and 6 receivers, Arujo Lopes, Maurice French, and Ruben Flowers, all leading the way with 3 catches. And then we had the likes of DeMar Hamlin had a big game. Whitehead did have an interception in addition to his 13 carries for 31 yards. He had an interception on D, so we were solid. I mean, the big thing was we just didn't punch the ball into the end zone when we got in the red zone. A couple of turnovers on interceptions, and then a couple of drives that turned into field goals, and Wayne Gallman just killed us. 180 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns is what obliterates. And of course, Watson had a couple big runs as well. Passing wise, Watson didn't do anything. The big play didn't kill us. We didn't give really anything through the air, to be honest, but just we were getting obliterated on the ground. A really disappointing performance for our front 7, and something we'll hope to improve upon going into next week. But this week in the ACC, of course, we lose 38-20 to Clemson, but a big loss in the ACC for Louisville, one of Clemson's main challengers for that Atlantic Division crown. Duke on a Thursday night goes into Louisville and knocks off the Cardinals. Lamar Jackson did throw for 3 touchdowns in the loss, but Duke with Wilson running for 3 touchdowns in the victory in a huge upset win and a resume booster for them. Wake Forest went down to Army, who's now 4-1. Georgia Tech obliterated Boston College, who will actually be facing this week, so hopefully a good sign for us to bounce back. Syracuse beats North Carolina by 3. Virginia over NC State 31-24, so the Wahoos get a big win, their first in conference. And then Miami 45-38 over Virginia Tech. This was a massive game. Virginia Tech tried to come back, but Miami, take a look at the scoring. They really traded scores for basically the entirety of the game until Miami got 2 consecutive touchdowns in the 4th quarter. An interception return for a touchdown was what sparked them to the victory. Even though Gerard Evans threw for 5 touchdown passes for the Hokies, unfortunately they fall, and Miami does remain undefeated. Florida State also beat Maryland, or excuse me, Miami has 1 loss. They lost to Clemson. Florida State 41-17 over Maryland. In the top 25, Navy falls from the ranks of the unbeatens, losing to Air Force 42-21 in a military academy rivalry game. Texas throws more just fire on the flames of this Oklahoma season. They lose 31-3 and drop to 1-4. I think that's the worst start you've ever seen for a team that started like 3rd in the country or 4th in the country or whatever they were ranked. They were 3rd, actually, I believe. They're just having the worst season I've ever seen. Another big ranked game, Georgia 31-9 over Tennessee. Texas Tech obliterates Baylor, who's going to knock them from the rankings, and Texas Tech stays unbeaten. Penn State over Iowa 35-17, so the Nittany Lions improved to 4-1. LSU obliterates an FCS squad 38-7. Arkansas State in the Battle of the Arkansas. They are the kings of Arkansas right now. They improved to 5-0, so you expect to see them in the rankings potentially sometime soon, especially beating the number 21 team in the country in the Razorbacks. So the Red Wolves beat the Razorbacks and can call themselves kind of the kings of Arkansas at this moment in time. Another big upset, number 8 TCU falls 29-24 to Kansas State. A fourth quarter touchdown for Silman gives Kansas State the victory in TCU away, so it's a big victory there. Instead, Alabama with an easy win, and UCLA wins. Another team to keep an eye on, Auburn, 42-10 over an FCS squad. They are 5-0 and unbeaten right now. Players of the week, Luke Falk with another, this is, I think, his second time in 3 weeks to have 7 touchdowns. 517 yards passing in a win against Colorado is absolutely ridiculous. And Emmanuel Lubin for FIU, 2 picks in a victory over Southern Miss. But the Luke Falk performance is just ridiculous. JJ Green for Georgia Tech and their winner of BC had 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Adrian Baker, of course, in the victory over your Pitt Panthers, had a sack and intercepted Ben DiNucci twice to allow him to win Defensive Player of the Week in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So some big performances this week, but Luke Falk is just, if he's not a Heisman contender, then I don't know what's going on for the Washington State Cougars. But top 10, you know, the first 5 teams remain the same: Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, LSU, Texas. I mean, some huge schools, obviously. Georgia bops up to number 6 as your Pitt Panthers fall to 9th now in the rankings. The amazing thing is Penn State is 8th now. Our only loss is to the top team in the nation. Penn State's only loss is to us. So they're fanning some flames of the rivalry here by sticking us behind Penn State, even though you could argue we've been way more convincing than them this season. We have a win against another top 15 or 16 team in Oklahoma State, and we lost to the number 1 team in the nation. So, I mean, I think we're getting a short end of the stick here, but, you know, it's just rankings. It's not the end of the world. TCU drops back to 13th with their loss. There is Oklahoma State. They're up to 14, actually. So we have a win over the number 14 team in the country and a win over the number 8 team in the country in Penn State. So I think we're getting a little hosed in those rankings, but what are you going to do about it? Auburn jumps all the way up to 16. I said keep an eye on them. They are 5-0. Oregon's number 20. The other big thing I want you to see is USC is 6-0. They just obliterated Arizona State 45-17. And yet they're still only 22nd in the country, and they're just coming into the rankings right now. That is wild. And there is Arkansas State jumping into the rankings at number 24. Louisville falls all the way to 25th after losing to Duke, so how the mighty have fallen there. But USC very underrated right now. Sam Darnold is having an unbelievable season. They are a team to watch out the rest of the way. That is someone you want to mark my words for, especially in that Pac-12. The likes of Washington, UCLA, of course. That USC-UCLA game towards the end of the year may decide who comes out of that division into the Pac-12 title game. But big games this week. Number 1, Clemson. They keep having ranked opponents. They're taking on number 25 Louisville in Louisville. But with Louisville losing to Duke, they're going to want some measure of redemption, but I just don't see it happening. I think Clemson comes away with a victory here. With how good their offense has been, I don't see Louisville stopping it, especially that rushing attack that's been so fantastic, especially of late. Duke looking to pull upset alert for the second week in a row as they take on number 4 LSU. I don't see Duke winning this one. Nobody sees Duke winning this one. LSU has the second best offense or defense in the country, and they are going to pound the ball on this Duke rush defense. It's number 95 in the country. The number 3 rush offense for LSU. Game blouses, I think, with that one. Huge ranked battle in the ACC yet again. We're just week after week. The ACC is having marquee matchups. Miami taking on Florida State. Herbstreit sees Florida State winning. They've definitely been very strong this season. Number 8 pass offense. They have better, statistics there, but I think that turnover differential pays dividends for Miami. They've shown that they can take the ball away. Florida State's shown that it can give it away, and I think Miami's going to win this one, to be honest, in this matchup. Penn State will host Nebraska. Nebraska, who was ranked just a couple of weeks ago, they've really fallen short the last 2 weeks, losing both of their games. And Penn State, fantastic defensively. We know how good they are offensively. Saquon Barkley's a Heisman contender. I think Penn State wins this one. And then finally, your Pitt Panthers taking on the Boston College Eagles. And for the Panthers in this one, it's really just, can they protect the ball? Can they make the most of their opportunities? There's no doubt about it. They should beat Boston College. But if their rush defense has another performance like they did in this last matchup, there is no doubt that with Boston College's fantastic running back Hilliman, they could take advantage and make this a closer game than it really should be. So that's a big thing. And the Panthers are going to have some high-profile prospects visiting. Two of the top recruits in the nation, number 26 overall recruit Coleman, a halfback, and the number 43 overall recruit defensive end. So they want to put on a good show for those guys to hopefully get them to commit. Boston College, when you look at them, they've struggled. They barely beat UMass 31-19, and then they barely lost to USC. So that was probably the best game they've played all season. But then they lose to Bowling Green. They lose to Georgia Tech in just an obliterating fashion. So things have been going downhill steadily for Boston College as their margin of victory and then defeat is getting worse and worse every week. They do have Hilliman, though. He's fantastic. 460 yards, and that's even including a game last week where he exited after the first quarter injured, so only had 6 carries for 31 yards. So he's averaging 115 yards a game, despite being injured for 3/4 of one of his 4 games he's played this year. So he is the key to the Boston College offense and the guy the Panthers are going to need to shut down. For them themselves, though, Quadri Olson in his own right has been just as good, if not better. 7 touchdowns on the ground, 561 yards, averaging 112 a game. He has been fantastic, and really the Panthers want to try and feed him the rock because DiNucci, he's a guy that has a lot of talent. He's shown a lot of promise, but if he's throwing 34 times a game, 311 yards, it means the Panthers, unless they're having a fantastic game, are coming from behind. So in this fashion, we think Pitt is just going to have too much for BC. It's at home. It's a homecoming game, which is fantastic for the Panthers. So you're going to see some special things in the ways of the jersey threads. You guys are going to be excited about that. But we're predicting Panthers 35, Boston College 24. I think the Panthers, the defense has been up and down this season, so you expect an average or an okay performance from them. And the offense is going to push the ball down Boston College's throat and get them the victory. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Leave a like on the video. Leave a comment. Let me know who you think is going to win if you're enjoying the series. And as always, guys, hail to Pitt. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.